Hello, welcome to another episode of the series titled Grieve but Live. On the first episode, we kind of unpacked grief. We talked about what grief means, what grieving might look like in different people, and we touched a little bit on the different phases of grief. Last week, we talked about dealing with regret and guilt while grieving. Everyone who has lost a loved one at some point would experience guilt and regret. If you haven't seen those episodes, please do so. And when you do, remember to share with someone. You never know how much help you'll be offering to someone when you share this video. This is something I know I would have appreciated early on in my journey because I know how God used different things that I saw, heard, watched to bring me comfort. So having something like this, I know it would have been of help to me at that time. So I believe this would be a source of comfort, a source of help to someone. So please do share with somebody. Okay, so today we will be talking about dealing with the things people say. Whenever somebody loses a loved one, people who care about that person will come around to console the person, mourn with the person, and those who are far away will put out calls, might send emails, letters, messages, and all of that just to extend their condolences with that person, right? So, in the midst of that, there will be things that people will say that will come across as offensive, might hurt your feelings, might make you question if the person is really here to comfort you or console you or just to spite you even more. But even before we go on with this episode, I want to just say it out front that nobody hurts anybody from a place of love. I know you probably would have heard this phrase that hurting people hurt people. Okay, so if somebody has said something offensive to you in your time of pain, in your time of grieving, know that it was not from a place of love. I'm not saying they did not love you, I'm saying it came from a place of maybe hurt, the hurt that they are experiencing, not knowing how to process their emotions. Now it came up as something hurtful when what they would have said should have been like a soothing balm to the pain that you were feeling. It probably would have been from a place of ignorance, not just knowing what to say and not knowing how to manage the situation. And of course, yes, there will be the few who would come to spite, mock people during their pain. But everything really depends on how we manage the things that come to us. For our own sake, our own health, our own mental health, our own well being, it is important that we know how to manage the things that people say, especially when it's in the negative. Because at the end of the day, whoever says something negative to you would have said it and moved on. They may not even know that they hurt your feelings, right? To them, maybe they thought they were saying something good at the time. Maybe they thought they were saying something that you needed to hear, not knowing that they hurt you. So we have to realize that most times these things don't happen intentionally. Yes, there are people who are in the habit of just speaking without considering the effects of the words. But I think the responsibility now falls on us to know how to either respond. But when I say respond, not meaning like responding in words, but like your internal response to those words. We all need to learn how to let words fall off, especially the ones that are not what we want to embrace. We need to know how to discard them. When I lost my mom, I had taken some time off work, so I went back to work and this person saw me. Having heard what happened, the first thing she said was, "Oh, welcome to the club." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, is this how things are done? I knew that this person was someone who did not have a good way with words. So it did, touch me for a while, but because I had that understanding, and of course, I believe God helped me as well to know how to, discard that thought. In the same organization, I also had two people who had also lost their mothers at different times. And these people came and they spoke to me, offered me some comfort. So that was like a soothing balm, and it kind of washed away what that other person had said. So it did not sit at all. There are people who would say things like, oh, one person actually, told after she came to visit and I was seeing her off, she told me, this is why you need to pray. You need to be prayerful. Don't joke with prayers. And this was, also just I think a few weeks after it happened. That one added extra burden on me. If you watched the last episode, I talked about like regrets and guilt I had, and I shared that one of the guilt I had was feeling like I wasn't fervent enough. I thought maybe if I was more fervent, more prayerful, more spiritual, more all of those things, maybe I would have been able to pray my mom into health or pray her back to life. So having this person tell me this was like adding extra burden on what I was already feeling. But then God really helped me with, like things people said. So that also did not sit. I just understood it as her way of encouraging me. She didn't know any other way. So that experience really opened my mind to understand that it's really important to know what to say to someone who is grieving, because what you're saying might actually add to the hurt that they are feeling. And we're supposed to be bringing comfort to the person. We're supposed to help them feel better, help them process what's going on, and not to add extra negative burden to them. So it's good to know what to say, how to say it. Sometimes it's better not to say anything. Some people might say things to discourage others from mourning, as if grieving the loss of someone you loved is a sign of lack of faith. No, it's a natural human experience. When somebody loses someone that they love, they will grieve. So it is natural for that to happen. Nobody should discourage anyone from mourning their loss. Yes, the Bible says we should not mourn like the people of the world. The Bible never says don't mourn. It never says don't cry after you lose someone, or don't grieve, don't think about them, don't feel sad, act like none of those things are happening. Because no matter what you tell this person, they're experiencing this great sadness. The best thing we can do is to help them navigate all they are going through and help them come to that place where they're able to draw comfort from God, not to suppress the emotions, not to act like those things are not there. So telling somebody not to grieve, not to mourn because they are believers is actually not scriptural. The Bible says we do not mourn like people of the world, referring to the customs of the world, because people have some interesting practices around mourning that is just demonic. So the Bible is encouraging us not to engage in those practices. Don't act like the people of the world. Don't mourn the way they do. Because in their practices, most times they idolize different things. They idolize the person they've lost, or they use that opportunity to pay homage to deities and all of that. There are different things that people do in the name of mourning. So the Bible is encouraging us not to mourn in that way. And also not to mourn as if you do not know that this person is with Christ, especially if they were believers. You mourn with the hope that you will see them again. You just mourn the physical detachment, that separation that you feel. You're not mourning as if this is a person you will never see again. So there should be that balance. Crying is natural. The shortest verse in the Bible tells us that Jesus wept. John 11:35, whether he was crying because of the loss of the person that he considered as a friend, who he was still going to raise up, or whether it was due to the lack of belief of the people around him. The reality still stands that Jesus wept. So Jesus wept because he was human. Something touched him and he came out in tears, he came out in weeping. So anyone who has lost someone will definitely have an experience that comes out as expressing their emotions. hopefully in a healthy way so that they can heal. Because the dangers arise when people start to suppress their feelings. Whenever we're around someone who has lost a loved one, we should create an atmosphere where the person can easily release the emotions that is within them. Whatever pent up emotions that they have, that environment should feel like a safe place where they can easily let it out and not suppress it, not feel the need to hold it in or hide it. I have people who told me, you're a medical doctor, so hold your heart, or you're a medical doctor, so don't cry. In a bit to comfort me now, looking at it, I understand that that's their own understanding. But all those times, I'm like, hello, I'm human. I have blood flowing through my veins. The fact that I'm a medical doctor does not mean I will not feel this loss. This is my mom we're talking about. This is my dad. These are people who were close to me. So don't come at me telling me, you're a medical doctor, you have to know how to keep it in. When you're not a direct relative of the person who has passed, you need to know how to express your own anger or your own emotions to the people who are mourning this direct loss. So, I mean, God is helping all of us, teaching us how to speak, with more grace and with more tact, but especially when it deals with people who have lost loved ones. Don't break the news to people via text. Try to make sure that whoever you're even extending your condolence to is aware of what has happened, especially when they are away from home. Try to find out first that this person is well aware before you even go and offer your condolence. I've had situations where someone was away from home and they did not even know that this thing has happened, and somebody is sending condolences, and it turns out to be something else. Like in my case, I was at home waiting, hoping to hear good news from my brother who was called to another state that my dad had traveled to. At home that day, he was called to come over that something had happened to my dad. They didn't tell him that my dad had already passed because they wanted him to be there, before breaking the news to him. So they had gone, and after all of those things happened, they didn't call me to tell me any of those things. They wanted to be present so that if anything happened, they'll know how to manage the situation. Now, this was my brother and one of my dad's close friends. So while they were on their trip coming back, someone sent me a text message expressing, whatever it is they were expressing about what had happened. And it wasn't really condolence of, oh, sorry, this, that. It was even just expressing their own emotions, anger, oh, he shouldn't have traveled, this should not have happened, and all of those things. And that was how I got to know my dad had passed. So these are things that we need to put in place, like know how to, especially for if you're not if you're not directly related to the one who has passed, know how to handle you even sharing your or expressing your condolences to the family. We should know how to do that. If you're watching this and someone has said something to you that hurt you or has done something to you that really hurts you, you've got to see people's listen, when you're grieving, you get to see sides of people that you did not know even existed. People will show up, trying to reap benefits and all of that, trying to take things from you. They'll see it as an opportunity to do a lot of crazy things, but just remember that God is with you, God is fighting for you. You should know when to stand up for yourself and also when to hold your peace and allow God fight your battles. Do not hold on to anything people say because it will do you more harm than good. You're supposed to be recovering, healing from this terrible thing that's happened to you. So holding on to any of the emotions that arise as a result of what people say will only impede the growth that you're supposed to be experiencing, through this process. So please don't hold it to heart. Remember that nobody hurts anybody from a place of love. It could be due to ignorance, their own hurt for whatever reason. And even if it's from a place of just wanting to spite you, still don't let it sit. because at the end of the day, they go ahead with their life, some not even knowing that they said something that hurts you.